Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt responsible for everyone's emotions?
Oh, man. All the time. It is so exhausting.
Right. Or, maybe you've replayed a simple throwaway conversation 10, maybe 15 times in your head, just agonizing, wondering if you said something wrong.
Yeah, and you probably chalk it up to anxiety, or maybe you just think of it as, well, a personality flaw.
Exactly. But today, we're looking at a framework that reveals this is actually a deeply ingrained biological survival mechanism. It's something called the incoherent mind.
It's such a profound shift in perspective, really.
Yep.
When you stop viewing that internal exhaustion as a personal failure and you start seeing it as a biological state, everything changes.
Totally. And that is exactly our mission for today. We are exploring episode 2 from Pillar 1 of Dr. V's Resonance Clarity Framework.
Right, which is a core component of the journey toward true self-awakening.
Yeah, this framework takes an incredibly practical look at the hidden mechanisms that quietly, almost invisibly, run so much of our daily lives.
It really does.
Yeah.
But to really grasp how this framework operates, we need to understand the foundation it's built on.
The origins of it.
Exactly. Dr. V developed the Resonance Clarity Framework through over 30 years of global nomadic lived experience. And it beautifully merges 3 massive universal philosophies.
Okay, so what are the 3?
Well, you have the Golden Rule, which is found in Abrahamic teachings.
Yeah.
Then there's the Law of Attraction. And finally, the Lotus Leaf Principle from the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, I love the lotus leaf principle. That is especially crucial for what we are discussing today.
It really is. If you look at a lotus leaf, it grows in the mud, right?
Yep.
And it rests entirely on the surface of the water.
Yeah.
But because of its specific biological structure, the water just rolls right off. It never actually gets soaked.
So it exists fully immersed in its environment without, absorbing that environment.
Exactly. You exist in the mess, but the mess doesn't become you.
So the goal is to be the lotus leaf. You can be in a chaotic office or, a tense family gathering and be present without letting the chaos soak into your own system.
Right. That's the ideal state.
But before we figure out how to actually do that, we have to look at why we get soaked in the first place.
Yeah, why we absorb it all.
Which brings us back to Alex. For anyone who caught our previous deep dive, Alex is our protagonist here. She's a highly successful professional who's walking through life carrying this massive, invisible, heavy bag.
The heavy bag, yeah, it's such a great metaphor.
Today, we are opening up that bag and zooming in on the very first layer inside it, her incoherent mind.
And, well, to understand Alex's incoherent mind, we really have to start with the foundational truth of Dr. V's entire framework.
Which is?
That everything in existence vibrates.
Everything.
Literally everything. We are talking about literal energy.
Yeah.
You, the people around you, the birds outside your window.
Physical things, right? Like the trees and the walls.
Yeah, the physical walls of your home. It is all made of energy in constant motion. And that motion creates frequencies.
Okay, so how do we as humans interact with that? Because I don't walk around feeling the walls vibrate.
Right. Well, our senses are essentially biological receivers tuned to these frequencies. So your eyes pick up the frequencies of light.
And our ears pick up the frequencies of sound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we also possess receivers for the frequencies of human emotion.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes sense. Like when you walk into a room right after 2 people have been arguing,
Yes.
even if they are dead silent, you feel it. The air just feels thick.
You're picking up on their tone, their presence, what the framework calls their emotional weather.
Emotional weather. I like that. So we experience people through the frequencies they emit.
We do. We experience the physical world through these differences in vibration. But here is the biological revelation that kind of redefines the way we understand our own stress.
Okay, lay it on me.
When your own internal frequencies become scattered or heavy, your nervous system actually alters how it receives information.
Wait, it alters the reception.
Yeah. You shift into what the framework calls the absorber frequency. And, this is so important to emphasize. Operating in this absorber frequency is not a psychological defect.
It's not a flaw.
Not at all. It is a deeply ingrained evolutionary survival response.
That completely reframes the entire concept of emotional burnout. It means the nervous system isn't trying to make you miserable.
No, it's just trying to keep you safe.
It's acting like, it's like an old car radio where the scan button is permanently jammed.
Oh, that is the perfect way to visualize it, yes.
Your nervous system is the antenna, right?
Okay.
And when you're overwhelmed, that antenna gets way overly sensitive.
It does. It's frantically jumping from station to station.
Picking up snippets of a coworker's frustration, then like your partner's exhaustion, then a friend's anxiety. It just blasts you with everyone else's static.
Just to make absolutely sure there's no hidden threat on the horizon. I mean, think about the evolutionary psychology behind
That's
this.
cavemen, basically.
Yeah, for early humans. Understanding the emotional state of the tribe was literally a matter of life and death.
Because if the guy next to you is scared.
Exactly. If the person next to you suddenly felt terrified, your body needed to absorb that terror instantly to prepare for a predator, even before you saw the predator yourself.
Wow. So your body goes into overdrive. It absorbs the tension and urgency of the people around you as if it were your own.
Right. Your nervous system is just ancient software running on modern hardware. It thinks it's protecting you by taking on everyone else's baggage.
Which really clarifies why this unaligned state is so often referred to as the imposter mind.
Yeah, people hear that term and misunderstand it.
They really do. It's not called that because you are actually a fake or a fraud at your job.
Not at all.
It's called that because when your mind is stuck in this survival frequency, it acts like an imposter hijacking your internal dialogue.
It looks for gaps in your safety, and it tries to keep you small to protect you.
Yeah, it whispers things like, you're not enough, or, you're going to disappoint someone.
It creates a profound lack of clarity deep inside. And it's so crucial to recognize that this is merely a temporary state you were experiencing.
Right, it's a state, it is not a permanent trait.
Exactly. You are simply tuned into a deeply uncomfortable frequency that forces you to internalize the external world.
So let's ground this theory in everyday reality to see how this actually plays out. Let's look at a typical Tuesday for Alex.
Let's do it.
She is operating on this absorber frequency, and the symptoms read like a biography of modern life.
It's so relatable.
Right. So her partner came home visibly stressed from work, and instantly, Alex felt a knot in her own stomach.
She absorbed his emotional weather.
Then her mother called and asked a completely mundane question about her weekend plans.
And how did she react?
Well, Alex's compromised antenna interpreted the tone as a threat, and she instantly felt judged and defensive.
Right, the radio scanning again.
Yeah. And then later, a colleague frowned during a meeting while looking at a screen, and Alex immediately assumed she had made a massive mistake that was going to cost the company money.
See, Alex wasn't failing at life or failing at her relationships. Her nervous system was just completely trapped in absorption mode.
And when you are trapped there, you fall into a pattern of deep internal incoherence.
You really do. And it manifests in a very specific set of behaviors. I mean, you start overthinking every minor interaction.
Overthinking is a big one.
Huge. You overabsorb the environment. You over-identify with the problems of others. You start over-functioning to try and fix everything.
Oh, overfunctioning.
Yeah, and you over-apologize for things that aren't remotely your fault.
I feel like we really need to look closely at that urge to overfunction.
It's a huge part of the framework.
Because why does the brain compel you to fix everyone else's problems?
Well, because the incoherent mind believes the only way to achieve internal safety is to control the external environment.
Wait, say that again? That's big.
The mind thinks, if I can just make everyone around me happy and calm, then my biological antenna can finally stop receiving distress signals.
Wow. So you over-apologize and overwork trying to neutralize the room, just so your nervous system can finally rest.
Exactly. You're trying to manage the emotional ecosystem of an entire room just so you can take a deep breath.
That is so exhausting. But this absorption isn't just about minor annoyances or office politics, though.
No, it scales up.
It scales up dangerously when the people we care about are in real pain, like what happened with Alex and her friend Maya.
Right, the dinner with Maya. This is actually the turning point in the framework's exploration of Alex.
So Alex is out to dinner with two close friends. Maya is going through a devastating breakup.
She's highly emotional, completely overwhelmed, and just venting across the table.
And Alex, operating from that over-functioning, over-absorbing state, does what she always does. She leans in.
She listens intently.
Right. She nods and holds the space for her friend. And, on the surface, this looks like being an incredibly supportive, empathetic friend.
It looks like empathy. But her nervous system is blurring the lines between empathy and absorption.
What's the difference, biologically speaking?
Well, empathy is understanding someone's pain while maintaining your own solid ground. You build a bridge to them.
Okay.
But absorption is falling into the mud with them. You lose the solid ground entirely.
Man, that's heavy. And when the dinner is over and Alex goes home, the physiological toll of that absorption becomes completely obvious.
She lies in bed, completely unable to sleep.
Her heart is racing. She feels this crushing heaviness and anxiety sitting right on her chest.
Because she actually felt as though she were the one going through the breakup.
Yeah, she felt personally responsible for putting the pieces of Maya's broken life back together. The boundary between self and other completely collapses.
It vanishes.
So she is lying there in the dark, physically exhausted but mentally racing. And her partner notices the tension. He simply asks, "Are you okay?"
And that's the breakthrough.
Yeah, Alex has this profound breakthrough moment. She says something out loud that cuts straight to the core of the incoherent mind. She says, "I don't know what's mine and what's everyone else's anymore."
I don't know what's mine. That is the defining cry of a nervous system that has lost its center.
It really is.
That realization, that was the moment her awareness shifted. She recognized that this invisible pattern was completely running her life, draining her energy, and dictating her emotional reality.
When Alex said, "I don't know what's mine anymore," that is a mirror for anyone listening.
Absolutely.
Think about your own week. How many times have you carried a heavy emotional bag home from the office, or from a coffee date, or a family gathering, a bag that did not actually belong to you?
And how much of your current exhaustion is actually just someone else's frequency that you absorbed because your antenna was stuck on scan?
So the question becomes, what do we do about it? Because recognizing the heavy bag is the prerequisite to putting it down.
Right. You can't put down what you don't know you're carrying.
Exactly. So the shift toward true self-awakening requires moving out of this incoherent mind.
And thankfully, the framework provides a highly specific, actionable first step to stop the radio from scanning.
Okay, I am taking notes. What is the step?
It starts with a concept used in cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness.
Just name it.
Name it. Yeah. When you feel that wave of overwhelm rushing in, you have to consciously label the experience. You literally say to yourself, "This is my unaligned mind absorbing again."
So just identifying it changes things.
Yes. Naming it isn't just a psychological trick. It fundamentally changes the neurological pathway in your brain.
How so?
Well, when you are absorbing, you are operating out of the amygdala. That's the reactive fear-based center of the brain.
Right, the caveman part.
Exactly. But when you actively label the emotion, you force the brain's activity to shift into the prefrontal cortex.
And that's the logic center.
Yes. It handles logic, observation, and executive function.
Yeah.
By naming it, you literally create cognitive space.
You're forcing a brain pathway switch.
You create space between yourself and the emotion. You realize that you are not the incoherent mind. You are the consciousness observing it.
Oh, that's good. And because you are apart from it, you have the power to change it.
Exactly. By naming it, you break the biological circuit of absorption. You regain your footing.
Okay, wait, hold on. I understand the neuroscience, but let's talk about real life.
Sure.
Creating space sounds incredibly zen in a quiet room. But if I'm sitting at a dinner table and my best friend is actively weeping about a breakup,
Right?
the emotional intensity in the room is at a 10. I can't just close my eyes, take a deep breath, and say, "Oh, I am naming my mind."
No, you definitely can't.
So how does this actually work in the heat of the moment when the biological drive to absorb is so strong?
That is the ultimate test of any framework, isn't it? Theory falls apart without a practical application in the moment.
Exactly.
You cannot pause life to meditate when someone is crying across from you. That is exactly why Dr. V's framework gives us a micro-practice.
A micro-practice.
Yeah, it is a specific, invisible, in-the-moment tool. When you are in that high-stakes emotional environment and you feel your nervous system starting to flood,
Yeah.
you ask yourself one single pointed question internally.
Is this feeling that I'm feeling actually mine?
That is the circuit breaker. Is this feeling actually mine?
Let's map the logic of why this works so effectively.
Let's do it. When you ask that question in the middle of a chaotic moment, there are really only two possible answers, right?
Yes or no?
Exactly. If the answer is no, like Alex feeling the visceral heartbreak of Maya's breakup, then you instantly realize you are absorbing.
You were acting as an antenna for someone else's pain.
Right. And just recognizing that fact starts to dial down the amygdala.
But what if the answer is yes? Say a coworker directly insults your work in a meeting and you feel a surge of anger. I mean, that anger is definitely yours.
Right. If the answer is yes, then you are reacting to a direct stimulus. But the beauty of the micro-practice is that the outcome doesn't really matter.
Wait, it doesn't matter.
No, because whether the answer is yes or no, the mere act of pausing to ask the question interrupts the automatic response in your nervous system.
Ah, I see.
The incoherent mind relies entirely on momentum.
Ah.
It requires you to be completely fused with the emotion, not paying attention to the fact that you are an observer.
So by asking, is this mine, you throw a wrench into those gears.
You step back into the prefrontal cortex.
You take your finger off the scan button on that car radio and decide whether you actually want to listen to the station that's currently playing.
Exactly. It is the dawn of awareness. And awareness is the absolute prerequisite for alignment.
This interruption is the beginning of true liberation.
It really is. It is the very first step in shifting out of the incoherent mind, putting down the heavy bag, and moving toward a state of resonance and clarity.
It is a tool you can take anywhere, too. Is this mine? You can use it in your next performance review, your next family dinner, your next rush hour commute.
Yeah, it immediately returns you to that lotus leaf principle.
You can be in the water, supporting your friend, navigating the tough meeting, without letting the water soak into your own internal environment.
You no longer have to be at the mercy of every frequency that enters your personal space.
Yeah.
You regain sovereignty over your own emotional weather.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We started by understanding the reality of frequencies, that we are all broadcasting and receiving energy constantly.
Right. And we explored how our bodies, as an ancient survival mechanism, can get stuck in this absorber frequency, leading to the incoherent mind.
We saw how that plays out in daily life through Alex's story. You know, the exhaustion of overfunctioning, over-apologizing, and carrying everyone else's emotional weight until you forget what actually belongs to you.
And we laid out the first crucial shifts: the neurological power of naming the mind to create space, and the immediate practical application of asking, is this feeling actually mine, to break the circuit of absorption.
If you are listening to this and mapping your own life onto Alex's story, wondering exactly where you stand right now, there is a clear next step.
Yes, there is.
You can find out if you are operating mostly from this incoherent mind, or perhaps another state entirely, by taking the free Resonance Clarity Assessment.
It takes less than 2 minutes, and it provides a personalized snapshot of your current alignment.
Taking the assessment also provides you with a personalized alignment meditation designed specifically for your current state.
Which is great, because it gives you a daily practice to help actively begin making this shift.
You can take that assessment over at drv.com. We will also have the direct link waiting for you in the show notes.
Alex's journey in the process is far from over, by the way.
Oh no, it's just beginning.
In our next deep dive into Pillar 1, we're going to explore the second layer of that heavy bag, the protector mind.
The protector mind.
Yes. This mind is driven by the defender frequency. It is that part of you that reacts, snaps, or gets inexplicably defensive without meaning to when your nervous system is pushed to the brink.
Oh, I know that mind well.
We all do. But as you practice naming the mind this week, keep the framework's advice close. Be gentle with yourself. You are learning to carry a lighter bag, and that takes time.
Learning to carry a lighter bag, I love that. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over. We've spent this entire deep dive unpacking the frequencies you're absorbing from the people around you and how to protect your own energy.
Right.
But remember the core physics of Dr. V's framework: you are also a transmitter. You are constantly broadcasting your own internal state into the world.
That is so true.
So as you go about your week, whether you're walking into a tense boardroom or walking through your own front door at the end of a long day, ask yourself, if my internal emotional weather is a frequency, what kind of storm or what kind of sunshine am I accidentally broadcasting to the people I love the most?
This is Dr. V. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Your journey, I'm sure. And if you want to know exactly which frequency is running your leadership right now, I invite you to take the free Resonance Clarity Assessment. You'll find the link in the show notes. You can take responsibility for your resonance. And I shall see you next time. Bye for now.